Welcome to another edition of Seahawks Forever. I'm Dan Viennes, and it is Monday, and the draft is a few weeks away, so that means it's Mock Draft Monday, right? Only 3 of these left before the actual draft, and the last one, of course, I always try to predict exactly what I think they're going to do, so that gives us a few weeks left to run through some fun scenarios just to see how things look differently if you take different approaches. So far, we've done one with no trades. We've done one with lots of trade downs to acquire extra picks. We've done one with a running back leading the way. Today, we're going to have some fun. First of all, in light of the conversation that I had with EJ Snyder a couple of days ago from Bootleg Football, Brett Coleman's co-host on that fantastic YouTube channel, he attended both the Oregon and Washington Pro Days in the last couple of weeks. And so I'm going to do a mock draft with just Ducks and Huskies going to the Seahawks. And I think you'll be surprised. It's not perfect, but I think you might be surprised how it kind of lines up with what the Seahawks might need in this year's draft. And then we're going to take a look at Matt Miller's mock draft today that he released on ESPN. All the respect in the world for Matt. He does a tremendous job. He's one of the best and most tied-in guys that do mock drafts and draft scouting in the league. And he also took on a massive heavy lift. He did a full 7-round mock draft for the entire league. That is a ton of work. I've tried to do it before, and it is beyond my capabilities, or at least my mental capacity for sure. So all that being said, I've got some issues with it. We'll react to that. We'll mock the mocks coming up next on Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viennes.
If you're headed down to T-Mobile Park tonight or the next couple of nights to watch the Mariners take on the Yankees, coming off a big win to tie that season series or to split that opening series with the Guardians yesterday, 2-2 with the 8-0 win, and you want some of the best craft beer in Seattle, maybe even grab a homemade pizza, best kept secret in the area, go to Fast Fashion Brewing, those guys down at the bottom there, Randy Storm, Matt Storm. Say hi to them for me if they're there. Randy's the guy that kind of runs it on a day-to-day basis. And nationally recognized beers. They do a couple of special releases just for baseball season. It's on First Avenue, just south of Hooverville, right across the street from Showbox Soto. So right around where you'd be parking to go to the game or getting off the light rail. So hop in there and enjoy a tasty, frosty beverage to start your evening. All right, guys, thanks for being here. Josh DeHuman is in first. Brian's here. Yakum is here. Good to see you guys. A little bit earlier start. My lady is off work tonight, so I wanted to clear some space for that. She's sleeping right now, recovering from her work week. And I have finished moving out of the other apartment. For a move that was literally only 2 buildings away, I thought it was going to be easy, and my goodness, it was tough. It's a good thing, though, that you can't see what's behind this monitor and in the living room because now the moving in has to commence. Anyway, let's jump right into this. These 2 mock drafts. First of all, I've got the this one that I put together, and I used the consensus board. And some of these aren't exact matches, and they're not going to be right now. I do want to give a shout out. I think Corbin Smith this week did an all Husky mock draft, if I'm not mistaken. And then this whole thing reminded me, and by the way, this all came out of a conversation that I had with EJ the other day. And I know I say this sometimes and then I don't get back around to it and I forget about it, but I did it in advance. The link is down below in the description on YouTube if you want to check out that full conversation I had with EJ. He does such a wonderful job on Bootleg Football with Brett Coleman. You know him from there, but he's a Northwest guy at heart, even though he covers the Chicago Bears on a full-time basis as well. He was able to attend both of those pro days, as I said in the intro, and not a lot of traction, not as many views as I think that episode deserves. Really, really insightful stuff from EJ. We get a lot deeper than I'm going to show you here tonight about how well a bunch of these prospects match up for the Seahawks needs. even getting down into some late day 3 guys or even potentially undrafted free agents. So check the link down below when we're done here and go watch that conversation with EJ. It's very, very insightful, really good stuff. So here we go. This is kind of the way that it lined up, and it doesn't check every box. You'll see there's no edge player here because there really isn't one coming out of either UW or University of Oregon that's anything more than maybe just a wild UDFA flyer well down the roster. But for these certain positions, it matches up pretty well. Emmanuel Pregnon, who EJ spoke about at length, a little bit older prospect because he's transferred quite a bit. But man, he really, really came into his own at Oregon. He's scheme versatile. He's played in this scheme. They do a lot of wide zone stuff at Oregon, and he just fits here. Carver Willis, we like the upside with him from Washington, and he does project into guard on some teams' boards, but way, way, way too high. And there really wasn't any other player at any other position from either school that justified going at 32. But Pregnon is kind of rated right in there. You'll see him sneak into the first round at times, but generally he's regarded as an early day 2 guy. And then this might also be a little bit early for Jonah Coleman as well, but I wouldn't bat an eye, especially in this draft class. I wouldn't blink twice about taking him there. There's a really fascinating discussion that's happened over the last couple of days. Rob Staten kind of spearheaded it, and then Bryce Coots reached out to me today. We chatted a little bit about it, and he sent me a video that I hadn't watched yet of just 2024 highlights for Jonah Coleman, and you can see the difference. You know, he did play through knee and ankle injuries last year, and you could see he was losing, he was missing a little bit of that top end speed and some of that juice, but maybe a year removed and a full healthy off season and all those things, we can get him back to that. He's such a good fit. And the more I think about the running back position, I don't necessarily think they're going to shoot for one of the home run hitters in this draft. I think they're going to go more for floor. And what I mean by that is there are some guys in this draft that are more dynamic and might present something different than what they have in the room. EJ and I talked about this quite a bit the other night. A Damon Claiborne or an Emmett Johnson, even though Johnson's he ran a 4.56 at the combine. On tape, he has some of the most explosive runs in the country. A guy like that, I just don't think so, at least not high in the draft. Maybe they take a flyer if they pass on running back until late. There's some guys later. But John has a type, and he usually likes him 210 to 215. And I think Coleman has enough short area burst and quickness, and he's so decisive and instinctive in this scheme. And he's also just about as elite as they coming out of college, catching the football and providing pass protection. I think he's such a great fit. Also, the intangible stuff, the off the field stuff, the character stuff. He's a fit. And so that fit there. Now, round 3, there wasn't a perfect fit. That's a little high for Price Hawk. Taco Davis was already gone, or I lean Davis over Price Hawk here. But you can certainly see the upside in the intriguing traits. And I'm sure Mike McDonald and Carl Scott and all those guys would love to get their hands on Price Hawk and get some length back out there in that cornerback room. And then Willis, who I take here as a tackle, I think he projects best to guard, but that guard room is getting really, really full now, especially with the selection of Pregnon here. And so with Willis, he would compete with Amari Kite for that swing tackle role, the third tackle role. They bring back Josh Jones, of course. But they love their positional versatility. And when you start to look to 2027, Anthony Bradford probably gone. His contract will have expired. Oluwatimi's contract will be expired as well, and Josh Jones is on a 1-year deal. And so you bring a guy like Willis in, and he can play all those different positions, right? And maybe he's a guy that projects with some starter upside kind of down the road, either at tackle as a swing backup or at guard. So kind of fun. I had a good time with this. All right. Now, Matt Miller. Said it at the top. If you're just tuning in now on the live show, I have all the respect in the world for what Matt does. He's also very tied into the league. And so pay close attention the last 2 weeks before the draft to any mock he does or any notes column where he passes on things that he's hearing around the league. He's been really accurate the last couple of years about some Seahawks draft outlooks in advance. And so I don't take these with a grain of salt. However, we've got over 3 weeks left until the draft starts. This mock was not his final mock where he tries to incorporate the things that he is hearing. That's only a first round mock when he does that. But it's such a huge undertaking to try and accurately do a 7-round mock and take all 32 teams' current rosters and needs and draft philosophies and all of that stuff into account. So take that for what it is. Round 1, Keldrick Falk. Don't see him falling to 32 very often. In fact, Bryce and I talked about it in our show on Saturday that he might be a guy that if he gets into the 20s, the Seahawks might see if they can move up because he's such a fit. He is, from day one, he's everything Mike McDonald looks for in an edge as far as being physical and setting the edge and playing the run. He's about as advanced as an edge is coming out of college these days at playing the run. He has a lot of work to do as a pass rusher. You see a limited number of moves there. There just isn't a lot in his toolbox. But guess what? He is 20 years old as we sit here today. He is one of the youngest prospects in this draft. And so he's not going to be, according to the experts and the scientists, he won't be fully physically developed until the end of his rookie deal. Maybe if you take the fifth year option out of the equation, he will be. So lots and lots of developmental upside there for Falk. If he were to fall to 32, even if John Schneider goes into this draft wanting to trade down and pick up extra picks, I think Falk could be really tempting. There's a lot of edges in this class. You hear about how deep it is, but they're all lacking something. There aren't a lot that have the length and the size and the physicality and the run defense. They're all kind of one-trick ponies. They're either pass rush only and they got a lot of work to do in the run defense department or vice versa. Falk's kind of that way right now, but I think there's a lot more pass rush upside. Mike Washington Jr. in round 2, missed out on Jadarian Price there. The way his board fell, I'm okay with Washington Jr. there, although the more I study him, the more I hesitate to think he's an ideal fit, and I kind of would rather pass on it, on the position as a whole, at 64, if Price isn't there, because I still do think that's a little bit high for Jonah Coleman, but I'm okay with it. And I get the process and I think he's on the right track. And then it all falls apart for me. Bryce Lance at 96 makes 0 sense. And here's why. He's going to turn 25 years old during his rookie season. The wide receiver room is kind of full right now, right? You have JSN, best receiver in the league, coming off the huge contract extension. We know Cooper Kupp's probably not going to play in 2027, but even then, Rashid Shaheed's back on a 3-year deal. We hope Torrey Horton's going to get fully healthy. Mike McDonald today at the owners' meetings, in fact, said that he won't be ready in the spring for OTAs, but he should be good to go by training camp with that shin injury. Sure sounds like it was a stress fracture, maybe even something that required surgery. We may never find out. But it just doesn't make sense because now I'm not saying don't draft a wide receiver in this draft. I'm saying 2 things, I guess. Well, 3. Don't take a wide receiver if you're only going to have 4 picks. And, Matt didn't get into any trades because, goodness, a 7-round mock draft already is enough work. But trying to figure trades into it, his head would explode. So if you get extra picks, I'm fine with taking a wide receiver, even someone that's kind of raw with some upside, right? Because even beyond those guys I mentioned, Jake Bobo's back, of course, with some incentives in his deal. He might be more involved in the pass game this year. I'm a big Ricky White believer. There's Tyrone Broden. There's some depth in that receiver room, right? And we also know they're going to use the tight ends heavily, and so they might only carry 5 receivers. And so if you're going to take a receiver, it's got to be someone with either another skill set, maybe some return ability, or someone that kind of looks like a developmental receiver that you can prepare to fit into that rotation after Cooper Kupp is done. But to take a 24, 25-year-old receiver, I like his skill set. He's fast, he's tall, he's everything. He's not going to get on the field. He's just not going to get on the field, maybe not for 2 years. And by the time he does, he's a one-contract player. So I don't love that pick there. And then Brailsford, I'm sorry. No. This is one of the worst picks that I saw. He is an undersized center only Like he might be able to get to 300 pounds, but he's going to have to, remember when Robbie Tobeck retired and he instantly looked like he could run Spartan races and marathons? Like he was one of those guys that had to work every single day to play at 300 pounds. Brailsford is like that. He is a center only. He cannot play guard. There is no room on this roster for an undersized center only. Jalen Sundell is the starter. I think he's going to just continue to get better. I think he's going to be recognized within the next 2 years as one of the better centers in the league, and he might actually cost some money here in a year or two. Brailsford just doesn't have a spot on this roster. I'd rather, even in 2027, when Oluwatimi's off the roster, I'd kind of rather see what Mason Richmond can do after being converted to center. I just don't, it just doesn't make sense, especially in light of this. Here's just a little sampling. First of all, the Bryce Lance deal. Here are some players at positions of need that were picked between 96 and 188. Let's look at the edges, right? Now we take Falk there, but if you wanted to double up, I mean, there's guys like Kayron Crawford, Danny Dennis Sutton, Romello Height, Mason Rieger, Joshua Josephs. I mean, that is a loaded edge class, right? Between 96 and 108, and 188, the corners, Hezekiah Massis, huge favorite. Devin Moore, maybe my favorite corner after the top 50 in this entire draft. Chandler Rivers, Dalen Everett, who we know the Seahawks had in on a 30 visit. And then even after pick 188, there's Prysock, Julian Neal out of Arkansas, Andre Fuller out of Toledo, who the Seahawks also had in for a 30 visit. So see what I'm getting at, right? Even some of the offensive linemen down in that area. Jalen Farmer, a guard out of Kentucky, I really like. You want to take a center, Jake Slaughter, I would take over Brailsford all day long. There's just a lot of guys. Bo Stevens is down there. Pat Coogan out of Indiana, I really like. Fernando Carmona, a tackle guard convert out of Arkansas. So, first two picks I'm okay with, and then it kind of falls apart for me. So just not really sure what he was thinking there. All right, let's get into some questions. I mean, that's kind of what this is going to be open for. John McGrath is here. John, you asked here, I don't think you're a Twitter guy, are you? Here, I did one. I just did one the other day after some stuff that I had read and heard, and I will share it with you because... and then I'll tell you something kind of cool about it. No, that's not it. Where's the one that I did? Let me find it. Did I not save it? Oh, come on. There it is. Okay. This isn't the one I was thinking about. I will say this. I always like to play new scenarios whenever there's some intel. And so I've been playing around quite a bit with a couple of things the last couple of days. There was a suggestion today. Where did I see it? It was an article on NFL.com just suggesting some trade ups and trade downs. And there was a suggestion that the Steelers might want to get aggressive, trade back into the first round to 32, either if Ty Simpson falls there or to get a dynamic wide receiver because they have struggled for so many years to finally hit a home run at that spot in the draft. And they had a pretty compelling case to move down to their pick at 52 and then pick up an extra third, an extra fourth, and then I think an extra sixth. Gave them 7 picks in the draft. And so I'll read something like that and then I'll go play with the scenario, right? Well, a couple of weeks ago, within about 48 hours of each other, Lance Zierlein went on a podcast and Brady Henderson mentioned in a notes column that the Seahawks are doing quite a bit of work on the offensive guard class in this draft. So John, you're going to like this. You may have heard me say this already. And so I've worked a lot of scenarios in the last week since I read that with taking a guard first or second, like high-ish, prioritizing it, especially after a trade back. And I sent this idea to my Seahawks content and my Seahawks contact who's in the building. He's with the organization. And he said, first he said, I have a code when it comes to the draft. He basically doesn't like to give anything away or any intel. He's very, very careful about what he says about draft process or anything that they're up to currently. But he did say he read my mock, he read my reasoning for it, everything I just laid out to you guys. And he said, You're on the right track, basically. And so let me show you, John, what that looked like. Let me go back here and take this away so you can see it. Take all this away. So this is the first one that I ran after I read the Pittsburgh thing. And so, if you don't think that's realistic, fine. And I think I posted on Twitter, and that's what some people came back to me with. Pittsburgh's not going to do that. That's not their MO. Okay. Well, then figure out another scenario using the trade chart where they trade down several times, right? And end up with 7 picks, and they don't pick until 53. Jadarian Price was still there. Boom. Got the running back taken care of. I think he's head and shoulders. And there's a huge drop off, even from him to Coleman, who I really like. Then there's Dunker at 64. Now, I'm not sure he's going to be there at 64. But here's the thing. As much as I believe if the Seahawks stuck at 32 and took Dunker, I wouldn't expect it. It would catch me by surprise, but I would celebrate it. I would. It basically would, to me, it would mean they really learned a lesson last year with Gray Zabel, because there's so much Zabel in Dunker's profile, personality-wise, characteristics, the off-field stuff, and even play style. It's kind of remarkable how similar they are. And so maybe John sees that, and he's like, okay, well, let's just put in another Gray Zabel. Anyway, I tend to think he's going to go around closer to 50, but I use the consensus board, right? And so this is an amalgamation of what most of the big experts are thinking. And so we'll see. If he was there at 64, I'd be ecstatic. And then I still got Joshua Josephs, a really, really promising explosive edge. And then I got Jalen Kilgore, one of my favorite guys in the draft. And then I got Masses, who I think is one of the best press corners in this draft. Jeff Caldwell, 6'5", long. Now, Caldwell fits more of what I was talking about in reference to Bryce Lance, kind of the opposite of it. Like, if you're going to take a guy, a receiver in this draft, given the status of our current wide receiver room, A, do it with some extra picks acquired, and B, take a guy maybe with some development ahead of him, and somebody that has some real upside and that's younger. And then Carver Willis, kind of same idea there. So there you go, John. Ask and you shall receive. Huh? All right. Let's do this before I get to all of the Q&As. First of all, this Tony Bag of Donuts gifted 5 Seahawks Forever memberships. Take advantage of those, you guys. It gives you the opportunity to do stickers and stuff like that, but you also get access to some other things that I post in the community on YouTube that I limit only to members. You also get access to our Discord. And if you scroll back on the community posts, you should be able to find that link. But if you need it, reach out to me either through Twitter or the email that's in every YouTube description. And I think it's in my Twitter bio too, at Seahawks Forever. And figure out how you can take advantage of that. So thanks, Tony. Appreciate that. Josh, who is doing some work over on draftsignal.pro, writing draft profiles. So am I, although I've taken the week off to move, so I'll be contributing there in the next couple of days. Again, Josh wrote about Coleman today, should be posted later. Reminds me of Algier. Okay, I like that. John says, never fumbled, runs strong. Reminds me of Lynch back in his Cal days. Hope he translates to the NFL and keeps on trucking. It's interesting you say Lynch, because that's the point that Bryce made to me as I was talking about how, well, I wouldn't mind seeing a home run hitter added to this group, like a guy with some real juice, like Damon Claiborne. I think he has a lot of Seahawk characteristics and personality traits. Played his entire career at Wake Forest, turned down NIL money, got his degree, all that stuff. But that's just not John's type. And you think about Lynch and how hard he went after Lynch for about a year before Buffalo finally relented and they made a deal work. And while he has some home runs on his resume, obviously, including maybe the 2 greatest runs of all time that looked almost identical. But that wasn't his game. There was one I remember too, where he took a pitch in Detroit and just went 80 yards. I think it was the first play of the drive, wasn't it? Right after a kickoff. And so, there is some similarity there. I think John, and I would imagine Mike agrees with this, is much more concerned about the first 5 yards than the next 30. They want explosive plays, don't get me wrong. But They want to raise the floor of that running game, more consistency. They still had trouble at times last year, even when the ground game got rolling, getting stuffed in the backfield a few too many times, and just not being consistent enough. A lot of like 4 or 5 yard runs and then stuff 1 yard. Guys like Coleman, guys like Emmanuel Wilson, they kind of get 3 yards every time they touch the ball at minimum, right? But again, go back to the 2024 tape and you see some of that juice on Coleman. It's not like he's a plotter by any means. Yeah. And Brian chimes in and says, yeah, dude's a brick. Anyone 5'8" who holds up in pass pro is a guy. Josh likes the Bryce Lance pick. I just, I don't think he gets on the field. And if he does, is he, is that in lieu of Torrey Horton? And, what does that mean for his future? Yeah. Washington's interesting. John says there's a lot to like. Josh says I have mixed feelings. I can't really put my finger on it other than maybe, and I could be wrong, been pretty good over the years at scouting running backs, but maybe he looks too smooth for his own good. I just think this offense needs a more decisive and violent cutter. And yet there are runs on his tape where he's seeing the lane develop in outside zone, making the cut, cutting back. It's hard for me to put my finger on. Maybe it's the past fumbling issues. Are those going to come up again? I don't know. I like to see a little violence in my running backs, and maybe he's not quite as violent as I think he should be, but also I kind of thought that about Nick Eamon-Worry last year, and I was dead wrong about him. So different positions, obviously not apples to apples, but still. Scott, 23 Dogs, also gifted 5 memberships. You guys grab those, snap them up if you would. All right. Evan Brown asks, how accurate historically are Matt Miller's mocks? Just curious. Before next Monday's mock draft show, I will go back and look at I'll go back and look at his last 2 years of his final mock, where he tries to get things right. And I'll try to find those examples that I'm thinking of where he's had some insight on what the Seahawks might do that's been pretty accurate. Yeah, Josh says I like Prysock more than most, I think. John says, give me Kilgore. Yeah, Josh says he thinks Prysock's a better fit than Davis. Yeah, Brian says he doesn't do X. I have learned as much as you can on X. First of all, I have to have it for my business, for engagement, for getting content out there. And I do like the engagement. And there's no better. I've tried them all, and none of them even come close. It's also the best place to get breaking news, period. But that being said, I thought I found something the other day that allowed you to even tighten up your timeline even more. If you go to your For You on the iOS app anyway, it gives you a drop down with a bunch of check boxes, and they're all categories, and you can uncheck things that you're not interested in. So I unchecked politics, the war in Iran. Like I just kind of kept sports, entertainment, technology, like a couple of things. But I thought, that's great. But then literally, if you leave the app, go do something else and reopen it, not even delete it or not even close it down, but just like, go to the next tab, it resets it. So dumb. So dumb. I tell you. Yeah, there you go. John's in that Discord too. So. Oh, nice. Josh is going to be on Bryce's show, The Hawk's Eye, talking about his draft crushes. Jalen Kilgore's on there. Absolutely. Martin Lawrence says, I think they let Bradford get to free agency, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him brought back. Surprised? Yes, but not shocked. Haynes will be gone and so will Jones. Any chance he's brought back? Maybe. But I think ideally you'd probably want to groom a younger guy there to be your swing tackle. I think Amari Kite could be that guy. Really like what I saw from him in preseason training camp. Yeah, I don't think there's any chance that Anthony Bradford's on the Seahawks in 2027. And I know Corbin Smith has said here on the show that John Benton really likes him, and that's fine. But, they were poking around at the trade deadline last year with Cesar Ruiz and maybe some others. And they've got some guys that they like, some of their young guys, Bryce Cable-Dew, and they'll probably add someone in the mix this year. So I'd be shocked if he's gone. And also, you know what? Don't be surprised if Bradford signs for a much bigger deal in free agency next year than a lot of you think he deserves. Especially if he goes to a team that's kind of more, gap power. Smigel, I'd be curious to hear why you don't like Price. I think he is the full package. To me, he's the second best running back in this draft. I don't think there's any question in my mind. The gap from him to Coleman is significant. And then from Coleman to Washington and the rest of the guys isn't nothing either. I think, man, and he's just scratching the surface. Yeah. John, I've cooled on Moore. I see one pass rush move. Now, granted, it's the same thing that Derek Hall got by with at Auburn, and it works pretty well for him there. Just the single arm bar, right? Just the power bull rush with the attacking the outside shoulder of the tackle. But he doesn't have much else in the tool bag. However, I've got him in a little bit of a bucket where it's like I think I was on him so early that I think this is just, natural human nature draft fatigue. And so this always happens every year. There's a couple of guys I cool on. Mike Washington's another one where I'll go back again and I'll watch some different games and I'll watch some other stuff and see where we go. And Joseph is no slam dunk. To me, he's a ball of clay, but he's one of the 3 or 4 most explosive get-off guys in this draft. He shows signs of being able to play the run really well, and he's got like 35-inch arms. There's a lot to like there in his toolbox. Hey, Bryce Coots is here. What's up, my friend? We're doing Seahawks Syndicate this week, by the way, just so you all know. Before I continue, let me just throw this up here, guys, because I want to let you know about a couple sales going on right now through the end of the month. Everything on the merch store is on sale. The t-shirts, really high quality t-shirts, are $16, just for an example. It's twice that to get a t-shirt off of Fanatics, right? And you don't even know what's going to arrive in your mailbox, right? Is it going to be see-through, or is it going to be good quality? So check that out. The link is down below in the description, but the web address is right there as well, seahawksforever.dashery.com. And then the April Fool's sale, but it is not a joke, over at Patreon, or you can access it through the website, nwforever.com, because all my content's there. Seahawks, Mariners, video, audio, and the videos don't have the YouTube ads, which is kind of cool. You can get my Substack through there, and it also gives you access to my Discord and some exclusive content that we only do over there. Sometimes you get early access to a video when I upload it, like the E.J. Snyder interview went to Patreon first. 50% off everything through the 4th of April right now. So 50% off your first month on a month-to-month membership, or the best value by far. Had a couple of people sign up for this already. 50% off an annual membership is definitely the way to go. So just check that out if you would, please. All right, let's get back in here, you guys. John McGrath says, if they go pure pass rusher, I like Romello Height. Very quick and twitchy. Not so good setting the edge, though. Yeah, there's a couple of guys like that in this draft, and it's got me thinking, we've talked about it on the show. I know Rob Staten's been talking about it for quite a while, mentioned it when we talked a couple of weeks ago here. They need some more quick wins. And I thought it was interesting today when Mike McDonald was asked about Boye Mafe. He's at the owners' meetings right now, McDonald, not Mafe. And he said, yeah, we're going to miss him because he even though he didn't get a lot of sack production, he got quick wins, and that created opportunities for other people. I thought that was interesting that he acknowledged that. And so now the guy most capable of quick wins in that edge group is gone. And so maybe a guy like Falk isn't the guy. Certainly a guy like Danny Dennis Sutton isn't going to get you that at all. Stiff, upright, no bend. And so maybe some of these more undersized guys, that's why I kind of like Josh Josephs. Romello Height's another one. Nadeem Tucker is another one. Malachi Lawrence is really my favorite, but it's just so hard to try and get him because he's always going between 32 and 64. And so trying to find the right spot to get him, he's kind of the full package. We really don't know what he's like as a run defender yet because lower level of competition. We just haven't seen it. But he's one of the more explosive get-offs in this draft, and he's got size and length. But height is a guy that I've really come around on. Cassius Howell's another one. Obviously, I just don't. The arms are a real concern. They really are. Go look at his sacks in college, and so many of them. Brandon Kane pointed this out to me when we were in Mobile. He put on a tape on our big screen TV. We're all sitting around after practice one day, and he said, "Watch." And it's sack after sack after sack from Howell. It was like ghost move, ghost move, ghost move. He's just so quick, and he would just duck under tackles' arms and beat him to the outside. Not going to do that in the NFL when a guy with 35-inch arms gets his hands on you, and unless you have. Yeah, it's just tough. It's really, really tough. But there are some guys, and height, I'm with you, is one of them. Jayshawn Barham is another one that I really like with really, really, in fact, I like him better than Derek Moore now, actually. You mentioned Moore earlier. He just plays so violently, just hair on fire. Martin Lawrence asks, Dan, if you had to choose between taking a running back or defensive end at 32, which would you take? Or would it just be BPA? It's always going to be BPA. As I get close to the draft and I study this draft more, I really don't think there's anyone at 32 that just is a perfect fit. Now, that being said, it's a lesser draft class. So first round grades are long gone. The highest graded guy on your board when you get around to 32 might be what in other years is like a mid-second round grade. And so, I think you can throw the word reach out the window in this particular draft. And it's more about, and I've argued this before, if they can't trade down and they're stuck at 32, just to reference your question precisely, then it's all just about who's on their board that's available that they just absolutely cannot live without, that they want, and they just don't want to risk losing him because he's not going to get to 64. If they can't trade out of that pick, just take him. Take the player you like. And so Malachi Lawrence really is the only guy that I really like there. Zion Young, I'm cooling on. He just doesn't have, he's too much like what we already have, right? He's violent. He's a good edge setter. And he'll get some hustle sacks. But we need something different in that room, I think. And I just don't know if he wins quick enough. At least not at that point of the draft. If Zion Young was projected to go at 64 or 96, okay. It's interesting that Bryce thinks Mike Washington reminds him of Penny. Very different body types, for sure. I remember Penny, the thing about him was, the reason they took him was two things, right? Didn't he? He scored really high on their durability metric, which obviously didn't work out that way. But also it was the yards after contact. There were all those highlights. There's one where he's literally dragging a guy by his jersey. But yeah, I put Mike Washington in one of those categories where if the Seahawks take him, I'll instantly believe in the vision because they see it. Yeah, John, no one is irreplaceable for sure. And yeah, John says, even if we don't draft a right guard, Cable Dew will be in the mix and Richmond can push Sundell as well. Olu's still going to be here. I don't think anyone's pushing Sundell personally. I think he's got the job on lockdown. Wouldn't surprise me if he's a guy, depending on, they got to get some other stuff taken care of in the next 6 months. But I could see him being like a December extension next year. Like, get him signed to a 3-year deal. Don't worry about restricted free agency or any of that stuff. And just lock him up before the market catches him, right? Try to get him locked up early before he becomes really expensive. Yeah, this is a great example of how scouting is in the eye of the beholder, but also sample size. Which games did you watch? Which tape did you watch? Kevin McIntosh has a concern about Jadarian Price because he had 3 fumbles inside the 5-yard line. And yet Josh here says Price was the most explosive back in college football last year. He runs so smooth and catches well, rarely fumbles. Elusive, but can truck guys. And then Tired Canadian says three fumbles inside the 5. The price is wrong. Draft Coleman from Tired Canadian. All due respect, Tired Canadian, if that's your standard, that's how you scout, it's wrong. It's just wrong. It's like you turn on what. Let me give you an example. Oh, shoot. Now I am absolutely blanking, as I sometimes do. So let me do this. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. I'm just blanking on the first name. So let me make sure I get this. There was a receiver in Mobile that I saw practice every day. And Tyron Montgomery, amazing story. Went to LSU on a basketball scholarship, never played high school football, and then transferred to a small school, dabbled in football, and then he transferred to John Carroll, I think it's Division III school outside of Chicago, and put up video game numbers. Okay. Let me see if I can find what he did his last 2 years. All right, let me just do this. Again, Tyron Montgomery from John Carroll. He's a day 3 guy. He's probably going to go in the 6th or 7th round. But I want to put this into perspective for you. It is nuts. His last 2 seasons at that's not the right guy. Here we go. He's such a small school prospect. Here it is. I couldn't find his stats on any of the main sites. Still can't. Where? Here we go. Good old PFF. Okay. So in 2025 alone, 109 catches on 131 targets for 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns. And the year before, he did almost the exact same thing. If you were to watch him on Tuesday or Wednesday, he might have been the best wide receiver there. Catching everything, contested catches, running really sharp routes, getting separation. Reminded me of the kid Johnson, the really small, the 160-pounder out of Oregon the year before, where he created immediate separation. He was unguardable, and he caught everything. If you'd seen him Tuesday or Wednesday, you'd think he was a day 2 pick. But if you saw him Thursday, you'd think he's undraftable, and he can't play in the league. Dropped everything, and then you saw the body language. Like, it was a rough day for him. So if you were going to show up Thursday and only judge him and make a draft assessment about him on that day, you'd be wrong about who he is as a prospect. So just be really careful about things like that, about taking one bad game or judging any prospect. And that's also kind of speaks to the danger of using YouTube highlights to scout a prospect. Now, I'm not one of those that's going to rip you and talk down to you and tell you that you're being an idiot that you have to use all 22. That's a very elitist point of view because, first of all, it's hard to get all 22. Like, I subscribe to a database, and there's still a lot of players that are missing, or some players even highly rated, like day 1 and day 2 players that only have 1 or 2 games. It's hard to find all 22 stuff in college. And so I try to balance it because I do take the scouting philosophy of what can you do? If you can do it once, I can get it out of you every time. That's how coaches think, right? Show me if I can see that you can do it on tape, then I know it's in you. It's not pure projection. Just need to get more consistent, develop you, and bring you along. And so I'll go back and forth because sometimes you watch all 22 and scheme or game plan, game script. If you're watching a running back and he just doesn't get any touches or carries. And so, running back's a good example of a position you can scout it pretty well with highlights. You don't need to see the all 22 necessarily. But also you just get to focus on what they can do. And so I try to balance those two things. Yeah, here's Bryce saying, go watch 2024 Jonah Coleman tape. It's more indicative of who he is. Yeah, Price or Coleman, I'd be really happy with both those guys. As I sit here today, just for how well I think they'd fit, they do things differently. I kind of have them even. I've kind of got them neck and neck for running back 2 in this class. Haven't finalized it yet. Got a lot of catching up to do after I'm done with this move, but yeah. John, I will say this. Now, the hat I'm wearing is a hat that I had created on the old merch store. It was a whole different process. The new merch store only does screen printing. And so I'll be honest with you, the hats aren't great. Unless you're a fan of like trucker hats, right? That have the flat front and maybe even in white because they take the screen printing really well. I bought a couple of cloth hats. I had the round logo, this one here, screen printed on it. Comes out a little bit light, faded, kind of looks like the sun sort of faded it. I have 2 of those. At some point, I'm going to give them away. They're decent. They're just not. They don't do embroidery, and so this is an outlier, unfortunately. But my favorite thing on the merch store, the t-shirts are great, and they make a bunch of different styles. You like a V-neck, you like long sleeve, you like a classic t-shirt with a little more weight to it, or you like the really soft touch blend. I kind of go back and forth between the classic and the blend. But the hoodies are great too. Their classic hoodie is, I wear mine all the time. I wish they did some embroidery, because then I think the hats would look fantastic. Charlie says, we love the ads. Keep the lights on the show. Well, the beauty is you could subscribe to Patreon. That helps support me directly. And you also don't get the ads, but I still am doing YouTube. It doesn't take anything away from that. So you're not taking away from the bottom line if you do the Patreon over the YouTube. And in fact, the subscription stuff that I offer honestly helps in the off season. It just kind of raises the floor a little bit when things can get pretty bleak over the next couple months after the draft. Smigel says, I don't trust the tape on Price. We'll see how smooth he is at the next level or who he's trucking through. I mean, Notre Dame plays a stacked schedule. Let's go. Let's see who they played last year. Uh, 25 regular season. Okay. They played. That's 2024. Here we go. Georgia, Penn State, Miami, Ohio State, A&M, and that defense, Purdue, Boise State, Arkansas, NC State, USC, Navy, Boston College, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, and Stanford. But let's look at his game log. We're just having kind of a leisurely, casual pace to our live tonight. I like it. All right, here is his game log for 2025. Boom. Average 7.5 yards per carry against Miami. Average 5.7 yards per carry against Texas A&M in that defense. Let's see. Best game came against Arkansas. 13 carries, 86 yards, 6.5 yards per carry against USC. 13 for 87, 6.7 per carry. 9 carries, 12 yards against Boston College. It was really the only team that totally shut him down. Pitt, Stanford, he only averaged 2.5 yards per carry, but on less than 10 touches. Just a little sample size there for you. Yeah, we talked about this, JX, and maybe we talked about it before you typed this, but it's a little redundant, but that's also kind of John's style. And I think they're still in their second year now. We kind of fixed the running game last year, and we fixed the offensive line, but there's still some headroom left. And there's still some improvement. And they, to be the running football team that they really want to be, I think they want to be really physical. They want to be able to run it down your throat. Mike McDonald said this right after he was hired. They want to be able to run it down your throat when the game script dictates that they have to run the football and the other team knows you're going to run the football. And they weren't quite that last year. And so part of that you're going to accomplish with a whole second year of the entire offensive line group, including reserves, coming back under the entire same offensive line coaching group. And so that continuity, you can expect, I think, that running game to take another step. And then, just getting the right guys in there. I think Emmanuel Wilson's a great fit, and being really, really, really physical. X-Wing, thanks for bringing this up. Since you and your lady decided to stay out east for another contract, actually, it might be longer term than that. Are you still planning on visiting training camp in person? Absolutely. Yeah. Bryce and I were just talking about this the other day on the phone. That, the Seahawks Syndicate is going to convene. We're going to wait until the preseason schedule comes out. Seahawks only have one home preseason game this year. We're going to figure out when that is. That's the week that we'll cover so that we can culminate it and finish it off with a pregame show at Fast Fashion Brewing and a postgame show kind of sandwiched around the preseason game. So as soon as the preseason schedule comes out, we'll lock that in and we'll start to promote it. And we're really looking forward to it. We're going to have we're going to get like an Airbnb or like a studio suite or something and set it up in there. Although it might even be easier. We might just do the whole thing at Fast Fashion too. We'll see how that goes. The Real Econ says, is Jonathan Grenard still at play for a trade? Mike McDonald did mention adding a veteran edge. There's a bunch of veteran edges available that aren't going to be signed until after the draft because they know that there's going to be some more opportunities there. Teams are kind of in a holding pattern, especially the ones like Seattle that want to play the compensatory pick formula. So the Monday after the draft, all bets are off and anyone could sign with anyone and the comp formula is locked in. Like there's no more canceling out of picks. It used to be June 1st for that. Now it's the Monday after the draft. Two things with Grenard. One, he has 2 years left on his deal. He wants a new deal. Schneider's not going to do that. So unless he lets go of that demand, he's probably not going to be traded. And then today at the owners' meetings, the GM there talked about how, we fully anticipate he's going to be a Minnesota Viking in 2026, but we're always listening. Basically gave the pat answer. So I don't think he's in play for the Seahawks unless he drops his extension demand. And maybe he would want to come to Seattle so badly because he is such a great fit that he would drop that and accept a trade, play the year out, then try to get a contract next year. Josh says Malachi Lawrence, probably my favorite early edge option. Oh, Dick says, sorry I'm late. It's okay. I don't take attendance here. I mean, I kind of do. I notice those of you that are here all the time, and I appreciate you immensely. Yeah, John's got it. He understands. Another reason I like height and more is that I always go right guard, running back, safety first, and then defensive end, and those two are always still there in round 4. That's why, if those of you that are really, really into this mock draft stuff, run different scenarios. Step outside your comfort zone. Take a different position first and see how that falls. Take a different guy, maybe someone that you haven't studied that hard but is ranked right around your spot, or even someone that you don't like but others do, and just kind of play around with different scenarios. Oh man, I wish I had known this earlier, but today I was was playing around on PFN, which has become my absolute go-to. The upgrades they've made to their sim over the last year have put them, in my opinion, head and shoulders above everybody else. And I'm going to do an episode here next week or later this week, maybe even, where I'm going to go through and compare all the mock draft simulators and kind of show you little snippets and you know what my verdict's going to be, but just kind of the pluses and minuses of each one. But they had this thing where it said dashboard new, and it had this red badge on it. And I clicked on it. I was like, what's the dashboard? And then it made me register for an account and sign in. It's free. And I'd never done that before. Well, all of a sudden it brought up this score sheet. And here, let me see if I can, do I have it? I think I took a screenshot of it. It's really cool looking. Yeah, here it is. Okay. I'll share this with you guys. Let's get rid of John there. Well, not get rid of John, but you know what I mean. This is what it looks like. So total drafts, most drafted player, average rounds drafted, favorite college, trades completed, total time spent. It's like the screen. It's like the screen time app that I never look at on my phone because I don't want to know. Total mock drafts, your rank. What a missed opportunity. I've probably done 100 mock drafts on PFN so far. And yet I don't get any credit for that. So it'll be fun moving forward now over these last 3 weeks to see how high I can get that number. Ooh, this is a good question. And one I've considered doing an entire episode about. So I'll have to spend some time talking about it. Dan, what would be the worst case scenario for the Seahawks in the draft? Martin Lawrence. I think it would, I think there's guys at every draft spot that will make sense. And they'll identify those players. You know, John Schneider's so locked in over the last 5 years. I don't expect that to change. I think the worst case scenario would simply be if they cannot find trade partners and they're stuck with just 4 picks, because, you know, you do still want to add some young bodies at other spots. And that would really just put so much pressure on, especially those top 3 picks, to really hit and become contributors over the next year or two, or else there would just kind of be this massive gap in young roster additions. That's really all I can think of. There really aren't any players that are projected to kind of be there at 32 that I think, you know, just don't touch. And I think that just kind of goes along with how much I trust this front office and Mike McDonald's input. I just don't think we're ever going to get an LJ Collier again or a Malik McDowell. Yeah. Charlie the Unicorn says, thank the Raiders for destroying the center market. I mean, you're still going to have to spend 4 years playing at an elite level to demand that kind of money. It's not like if Jalen Sundell goes out and makes the Pro Bowl this next year that he's going to be a $27 million a year player. That's not how that works. But yeah. Brian, good catch. Avion Terrell out of Clemson re-injured his hamstring earlier today, most likely affecting his draft stock. He might not be able to run for teams before the draft. I still don't think he makes it to 32. I still think he's like the 3rd best corner in this class, maybe the 4th. But guys getting hurt this late in the process, they do tend to slide just a little bit. Just a little bit. Avion Terrell gets to 32, I'd be really tempted to turn down some trade offers and stay there and take him, because he's fun. He is fun. Brian says, I remain stuck on Jonah Coleman. The question I have for you is Jonah Coleman stuck on you? If you don't get that reference, you don't ever watch TV. Although I guess TV's not really a thing anymore, right? Nobody watches commercials anymore. Not on purpose. John says he'll wear one of those hats with pride. All right, I will set one aside for you, John. I will indeed. They're like a stone color, but they're cloth. They're adjustable, snap back. But Nice. I would be proud for you to wear it. Charlie asked about price possibly lasting until 64. I've seen it a couple times. I mean, where did I just saw a big mock where he was going to Seattle at 64. I think it was like Charles Davis, Bucky Brooks, one of those. Yeah, I'm with you, John. I do not like the idea of only coming out of this draft with 4 picks. I want to add at least 2 more. And then I feel like I can, check the boxes I want to check. Scott says, just love drafting O-line first now after your last video. After your last video got me thinking. Finish the rebuild on the line. All right. Yeah, Charlie says Ty Simpson to the Steelers makes sense. There's a lot of buzz with Arizona, maybe trying to trade up from their second pick onto the first night, get that 5th-year option, right? Hey, DK is a Wookiees here. Hey, Dan, great show. Trading back for picks is great, but how about trading back and getting players? Anyone you fancy? If Steelers want to move up for Ty Simpson at 32, how about 53 Alex Highsmith and a later pick? That sort of thing. Yeah, I when John talked about how at the Combine, when he said, we don't think this is as good a draft class as we've seen in the last several years. We certainly think next year's is better. It immediately made me think of 2021 when they traded all those picks for veterans. Jamal Adams, obviously, is where the first-round pick went. And then Gabe Jackson, they traded one of those picks for. There were some other guys in there as well because they just, coming off COVID, they didn't trust their evaluation, and they didn't get to see a lot of these guys play. And so they punted on most of the draft and traded those picks for vets. I could see something happening. Highsmith's an interesting suggestion. God, is he 30 yet? No, he's only 28. But yeah, and I kind of feel like it might be for a player that like we're not even thinking of. Like maybe the Giants do move Thibodeau. And that's a guy the Seahawks like. I'm not sure he's really a personality fit, but that was just one example off the top of my head that I come up with. Martin Lawrence says, Dan, off topic. There's no topic right now. But how do you feel about the Seahawks opening the season on a Wednesday night? I'm not a fan of it. I'm a fan just because it doesn't matter what night it's going to be. I'm going to be there for the opener this year. We're going to go back for that one. I don't mind it. It's fine because you still get the spotlight of the first game. I would have been really irked if they had played the Australia game Wednesday and then kept this game on Thursday. Let the Super Bowl champion get their due and get all the attention first game out of the gate. Also, it gives them an extra day at home, no travel, to recover for week 2. So it'll be funny to me, not funny, but it'll be interesting to see when the schedule comes out. I kind of hope they give us someone tough week 2, like maybe one of the tougher road games, like maybe Philly week 2. Give us a little extra time to recover, prepare before an East Coast road trip. Just a thought. I think it's an advantage. John says Grenard and Miller could be the vet edge added. Vaughn is on record saying he regrets not signing with the Seahawks. Yeah. And Schneider's on record saying they thought they had him and they were going to sign him. And that was after they signed Lawrence. They were going to pair those two together. Different players. And that's why I think Miller still fits. Got 9 sacks last year in Washington. Had a great quote recently when he was asked how he was able to get 9 sacks at his age. I think he's 35 now. And he said, because the moves still work. And he's still got enough burst. And he's such a grade A character. Probably wants to play one more year and get a ring. I kind of think Von Miller's, like, in my mind, he's on this roster. And so when I start thinking about the age group, I'm like, okay, you add Von Miller. Now, maybe, we were talking earlier, John, about some of the undersized, kind of more twitchy guys in this class that might early in their career at least be more of a designated pass rusher type. Well, who better to teach him than Von Miller? Josh asks, between Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas and Harold Perkins Jr. out of LSU, who do you think's a better fit in Seattle? I think it's Hill because he can also play edge. He's big, much bigger and longer, and he can actually stand at the line of scrimmage in a 2-point stance and be an edge rusher. Perkins, I need to study more. I just know that there were some things at LSU. He kind of grumbled about playing time and usage and stuff like that, and he's really undersized. There's some guys I like in this draft better. I'd take Kyle Lewis before I would take Harold Perkins, to be honest with you. John Schneider's certainly not sleeping on this, guys. He keeps talking about Helani all the time. Blue and Green Zone says, let's go, made the live show. All right, you guys. Oh, that's right. The Mariners play at home that same day. Well, I guess I'm going to both games. I just booked a hotel downtown the other day just so it's all set. I wanted to do Silver Cloud, but my goodness. I mean, kudos to those guys, but it's like $700 a night during the season. All right, you guys. I think we covered some really good ground today. I think that was a lot of fun. Let me just, hey, Peter Go Hawks with the super chat. Glad I didn't miss you. Thanks for the donation. How far could you move up in the draft for our 2 and 6? Oh, I see. All right. Where was that? Hang on. Let me see if I can find that graphic that I built the other day. Because Bryce and I talked about this. Here we go. No, that's not it. Okay. Guess not. Bear with me, guys. Yeah, here we go. All right. Let me just do this because I'm a visual guy. Let me put this on the screen for you. Okay. And we'll go here. Turn that off and then get this in here. So this is what it would look like. So 64 and 188 would get you to pick 20. That's really about as high as you can go. So I don't know who that's going to get you, but I don't think there's anyone at pick 20 worth punting half your draft for and only coming out with a first-round pick and the last player taken in the third round. Maybe if Jeremiah Love were to fall to 20, but I'm not moving up there to get any of the... Yeah, I'm just not doing that. Yeah, Martin says, I hope the Eagles game is early in the season so it's not cold. The Eagles game is one of the games that I will be attending. There's 3 out here that are going to be a pretty easy. Philadelphia is like less than a 5-hour drive from here. They play the Panthers again in Charlotte. That's about a 4.5-hour drive. And then potentially the Commanders game in DC. That's a 4-hour drive. But there's some indication that the Commanders are going to get an international game. And so that might be the choice there. Anyway, guys, let's do this. Let's take you out the right way, as I always do. Let's see. Downloaded some new songs the other day. Why isn't this working? After years of not touching it, my cats have decided now they like to just walk all over the desk in my studio. And so my mixer is just like a hodgepodge of craziness. Now, whenever I sit down, I have to put things back together. Thanks a lot, you guys. Just tune in over the next couple days. Not really sure exactly. I've got some ideas I'm kicking around, but I'll be here every day this week. Follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. Again, check out the merch sale and that Patreon sale, 50% off memberships. If you're going to the Mariners games, check out my boys over at Fast Fashion Brewing. And then you can, hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up. If you want notifications, hit the bell. It's the best way to help support the channel, but also then you don't miss anything. Thanks for being here, you guys. I really appreciate it. Until next time, forever and always, go Hawks.